How many people were here for last night's screening? Oh, most of everybody. That's fantastic. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. And I just wanted to say how exciting it is to be 1 year into the FiRe Films team. In just 1 year, we have people from all over the world that are involved supporting world-changing documentaries. They receive quarterly Director Collins series invitations for films that we think are really important. They send questions in, and we introduce them to the director, and we ask the director the questions from our FiRe Films team. We had about 40 people that came to Sundance last year that are FiRe Film team members. We had private parties, special meetings with the directors, and suggested films for documentaries that we think should be made. Carmel Art and Film Festival is coming up. Last year we provided Carmel Art and Film Festival with a handful of films that they decided to show at the festival that we think are world-changing. We're changing the world with FiRe Films, and I want to say thank you from my heart for being part of that. One exciting thing that we have to announce here too, I have goosebumps talking about this, I love this. Deloitte this year, actually this week, has said that they would like to show Alive Inside after its theatrical release, which is happening on July 18th, in Silicon Valley. So all of our FiRe Film team members and all of our FiRe audience is invited. It's going to be a bunch of technology leaders for a private screening at the Fox Theater in Redwood City, and there will be a reception afterwards. So thank you so much to Deloitte and for all of you for supporting world-changing documentaries from the creation through distribution to education and using technology for the solutions. I'm going to introduce now the FiRe Film panel that we've chosen for this year with world-changing documentaries. I have to thank you, Geralyn, Dreyfous. Come on out, team. Geralyn Dreyfous is our FiRe Films ambassador, and she has brought to our attention many world-changing documentaries, and she's so avid in helping films to get funded that should be funded so that we can all see them and create action. Thank you.
Is this on? Yes. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for allowing us to share some sneak peeks at some films that we think are world-changing, and particularly using technology as a way to solve a problem. So this year we're doing something different. We're showing you some works in progress. Last night you got to see Alive Inside, and Michael's joining us again this morning on this panel, and we're going to show you a rough cut of the trailer that we're going to be releasing in theaters, which we're not happy with yet. It's not perfect, so we're going to use you as a test audience, and at the breakout you can tell us what you think. But first I'd like to introduce you a dear friend, Katia Moritz, who's an extraordinary, passionate advocate for research in rare diseases in the undiagnosed medical population. She herself has been struggling with an undiagnosed illness and is meticulous as a researcher, and has made this film out of her own personal journey as a way to help, but also as a call to action for a database for undiagnosed medical illnesses so that it can be used for research, and to create a support community for the hundreds of thousands of families who have children or loved ones that are suffering from an undiagnosed disease. And we're going to take a look at her clip first, and then I'm going to introduce you to all of the other filmmakers. So thanks.
Thank you.
Without a diagnosis, these patients don't have any medical home. They don't have any support network.
We're alone in this journey. We really are like refugees.
It'd be nice to have a place, even if it's a way away and you have to fly an airplane to get there like twice a year. It'd be nice to have a place where you could go and take your child and have them followed up on a consistent basis.
When we can't give them a proper label or a proper categorization, I think there is a unintended abandonment that happens.
We expect in our society that somehow we're going to find an answer and become diagnosed, so that when someone is undiagnosed, it raises the whole question of what happened to the system. Wasn't the system supposed to have an answer for me?
Even though we've been on this journey for almost 3 years, every opportunity for a test or another doctor to see, we're still kind of hopeful. But then again, the balloon pops when there is nothing.
Hope is one of the most therapeutic elements. In fact, they call the NIH the National Institutes of Hope. And the Undiagnosed Diseases Program provides that for a whole cadre of individuals who have not had hope in the past.
We've seen 40 plus specialists across the country at all the best institutions, all the big names, and everyone kind of shrugged their shoulders. She said, she's a puzzle.
I was misdiagnosed for 27 months. He had gone from TIA to stroke to complex migraine to you're nuts.
I think that patients who have medically unexplained symptoms have a tendency to receive psychiatric diagnoses.
So you know what I would just love to tell doctors is it's okay if you don't know. And it's okay to admit that.
What you're asking me to do is to look for zebras. When you hear hooves, you look for horses. I had no idea what that meant. All I knew is that my child was lying in there dying. And my thought was he should be looking at everything.
What we really ought to be thinking, that diagnosis is co-produced by the physician and the patient.
He had to die of something. You're right. He had to die of something. And we don't know what it is.
What is so tragic is not only the human suffering, but also the fact that this population provides very important data that is not being stored anywhere.
The worst thing for me as a doctor is to have a child die and not know why.
I went over to her bed and I said, Gina, what's wrong? Mommy was very concerned. She called me. And she grabbed me by the collar and she pulled me real close and she said, Daddy, please don't lose me. And so I said, I won't. You can't abandon your patients because you're abandoning them and abandoning their hope.
So, I mean, as we know, there's only about 5% that we've been able to discover in DNA sequencing, and there's a whole universe of research and discoveries to be made in the world about our biology, and Katia's mandate is to really try to help people not be afraid by what we don't know, but actually see that as a resource. And I'd just like to say that she's of the films that we're going to look at today, hers is still in the production stage. She's raising $600,000 to make the film. This will be an absolute advocacy film. It is meant to be a call to action for more funding in this area, and to be a support group for families that have undiagnosed illnesses, and be a call to action for a research database. So I'm just going to hand over the mic to Katia and let her give you one personal statement of what she's doing. So.
Thank you. And this is the first time that we showed in an audience, and I could see all the glitches. And this is our funding trailer. So my background is I am a cognitive behavioral psychologist, and 4 years ago I became sick with an unknown disease, and I'm still very sick, and I don't have a diagnosis today. And I think in America we expect that if you're sick, if you go to the real good doctors and if you try to do your best, you will be diagnosed. And when I realized that I wasn't alone, there were probably millions of people in this country right now suffering from an undiagnosed disease, because some of you may have a diagnosis, but your diagnosis is not correct. So in one way, you are undiagnosed too, right? And so that is a very common thing. I realized that there was something much bigger happening, which is no one was paying attention to this population. So there were no doctors for us. People fire us after they realize that they know what to do. So the very sick patients we have, some of them are actually terminal in hospice. They don't have a doctor to call and say, what do I do when I'm sick? What do I do next? Because the doctor says, I don't know. And so that was really, for me, one of the most, I can't believe this. Those people are sick. How come nobody's taking care of them? But even bigger was the realization that the undiagnosed population is where the secrets of the future of medicine can be found. So even if you guys are on cholesterol medicines, right? The statins were discovered based on a rare disease from a very small sample, and they figured out how to take care of that, and the whole entire world benefited from that. And my fear is we are losing those patients. The patients with undiagnosed diseases right now are dying. many of them, and there's nowhere to store their data. No one is collecting this data other than a very small program at the NIH, which is expanding right now, which we're very excited about. So part of our movie is to help show the importance of the undiagnosed population. You know, there are so many discoveries that can happen. And I'm gonna tell you something, it's very hard to be sick, very hard. And I'm sure all of you deal with illnesses, but it's very hard not to know what you have. You know, your life, you don't know how to plan, you don't know what to do next. You know, a lot of us live like they're gonna die tomorrow every day. So for many undiagnosed patients, not only the journey of being undiagnosed is very tragic, is the fact that we can't even contribute to the next generations. So we hear from parents that lost a child to an undiagnosed disease that, you know, there's cold cases out there. So if a child is murdered, they keep the information there so technology can catch up with the case, and eventually we could discover who did it. When a child who is undiagnosed dies, there's no place for them to store their data. So all this information that could be cross-referenced and save another life, there's nowhere to put it, because without a name, you don't have a place to put it. And I'm looking at all you guys who are brilliant technology people, and I'm asking you, you need to help us. We need to help. We need a lot of help trying to figure out how to put this data together so undiagnosed patients can go somewhere and put their information, and then doctors can cross-reference. The doctors who are taking our cases are like the countries that take refugees, because it is so difficult to take a patient who is undiagnosed, and they still have the 15 minutes and they get paid the same amount of money. So it's very difficult to find the proper place to help them. And so our movie hopefully is going to change that. The other part of it is that we are trying to raise the funds. We are failing awfully on the Kickstarter campaign right now. So we need all the help we can get, and sending out information. We need to go viral, but it's kind of a sad movie, and it's a kind of a sad topic, and it's very difficult to get the word out there. So I'm hoping that you guys can help us get the information out there and make this movie happen. So, FiRe miracle.
Thank you.
Bravo.
I'm going to ask Joe to introduce his film. We're going to show a clip, but it just had its world premiere. It had it had a North American premiere in Seattle this week, and won an audience award at IPFA, which is a very prestigious European festival in last November, and has had European sales. So his call to action from this group is to help to think about distribution for the film, and also have corporations have him do a showing of the film. So he's looking to work with companies, and I'll let Joe introduce the clip.
I think you're mic'd up.
Oh, we're all mic'd. What am I doing?
Am I mic'd up? You can hear me?
Yeah.
All right, so my film is called #ChicagoGirl, and it is about a 19-year-old girl in Chicago who is one of the coordinators of the Syrian Revolution. And we follow her in Chicago, as well as people within her social network on the ground in Syria. And we watch how they are using a combination of technology and action to make a difference in a very, very difficult part of the world. And ultimately, everybody in the film has to make the decision for themselves. What is the more powerful weapon? Is it social media, or is it AK-47s? And each person chooses differently to different effect. And I believe the clip we're seeing today is actually the opening couple of minutes of the film. I think it includes a credit sequence, but the credit sequence details very well, give you a little overview of the kind of work that this girl in Chicago is able to do to help her social network on the ground in one of the world's most treacherous places.
At 19 years old.
Yes, at 19 years old.
Okay, great. Let's see the clip.
My name is Ella Basatne. I'm 19 years old. I live right outside of Chicago with my parents and my younger brother, Louis. And I am a freshman. I used to pretty much go to the mall with friends, just have fun. But nowadays, I don't have time. I'm responsible for hundreds of people on the ground in Syria.
The regime there has lied to the world about slaughtering civilians. The biggest liar is the dictator himself, Bashar al-Assad.
From my laptop, I'm running a revolution in Syria. We need to show the world what the regime is trying to cover up.
she's made it impossible for the world to deny what's going on the ground in Syria.
This kid in Chicago being one of the managers of this movement, it's a very 21st century form of revolution.
I received a death threat sent directly to my Facebook inbox. And it said, "We know who you are, the Chicago Girl. We're waiting for you in the airport, and we want to make an example out of you." I am very nervous, but my friends are facing bullets. They're facing tanks. I will never give up.
So Joe, tell us a little bit about your journey and where you want to take the film and
Well, what drew me to the film and the subject matter, my background is in kids movies. I wrote Underdog for Disney. I'd done the production rewrites on Kung Fu Panda and Hotel Transylvania. And I came across the story of these young people using a combination of technology and action to change their world, and that's what drew me into it. And so this was a very difficult movie to make. In addition to making a movie here in Chicago, we also had to have a team on the ground in Syria. We had to smuggle cameras in, we had to smuggle hard drives out. 2 weeks after filming, my cameraman was killed, filming in the streets of Homs. But we got the movie made, and now we are just trying to get as wide a distribution as we can. We want to show it to as many people as we can. I mean, we have found, in particular, 20-something teenagers and 20-somethings, the messages we get from them after they have seen the film is both, wow, we need to help Syria, but even more importantly, they have said, you have inspired me to go out and make a change in my own world. I can use these tools that I'm using every day, and I can go find what my cause is and go make a difference. And so the goal for the film is really to just get it out as wide as possible.
And obviously you have the rewrite rights on this too.
I do own the life rights on this as well.
It's a great action. It's a great television action idea, movie action idea. So Mick, we're going to show a film. We're going to show a clip from Mick's latest project, which is called Project Daniel. And Mick is this strange combination of medical entrepreneur with no medical background, filmmaker, and does commercial work. But he's driven to find technology solutions for people who have healthcare issues. His first film was award-winning. He was able to create a medical device for a graffiti artist in Los Angeles. Explain that quickly, and then we'll show this clip.
The device was called the iWriter.
The iWriter.
And he was diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease 9 years before we met him, so he was completely paralyzed except for the ability he could move his eyes. So we created a ocular recognition device, and prior to meeting him, I'd never said those words in a row consecutively. That allowed him, with a pair of cheap sunglasses from the Venice Beach boardwalk where I live, a coat hanger, and a broken open Sony PS3 camera, we tracked his pupil, and it allowed him to draw for the first time in 7 years.
Right. So this next film, the clip is going to tell the story of how they're using 3D printing to make prosthetic arms in the Sudan. And then I'll let Nick tell you the story of the impact that this 3-minute piece has already had, which has won a lot of the world's attention and awards and some technology and innovation grants. So let's run with Project Daniel.
Daniel was 14 when the bomb took his arms. I read the article about him and had to help. I came to Sudan with 3D printers, laptops, spools of plastic, and the goal to build Daniel an arm. You ready? And then Daniel fed himself for the first time in 2 years. But it's never about just one person. You just double click. So this is the hand, 90 degrees. If we could teach the locals to do it themselves, the project could live long after we left. And it did.
Yeah, we're gonna sit right here.
I think they have the cameras. I think that's the problem.
What I love about this particular Not Impossible project is that Mick is actually challenging other people to bring ideas and you know, then come up with solutions. So it's a combination of how to use film and technology to solve problems, and needs lots of technology partners. So Mick, why don't you tell us a little bit about? Oh, look at how cozy you guys are.
It's one big happy
In the
family.
next stage setting, I'm going to be like stretched out like.
All Mick has to say is how short I am. So now he realized how portable I am. Right?
Exactly.
So tell us a little bit about where you are. I mean, this particular project is going to be made into a feature film. It's been shot, and it needs about $270,000 to finish to be made into a feature film. And it's also a great example of how a short can make a huge amount of difference too, because the resources that have been mobilized just by that trailer and with the support of this project that Intel started has been pretty incredible. And we're looking to expand that program to bring in additional funders so that these kind of short form stories can go can have the kind of impact that this already has. So to talk a little bit about the impact so far, and then
Sure.
what you need to finish.
Well, is Gary still here? Gary Shapiro? Is he? Okay. Well, we launched it at CES this year on January 6th, and that was kind of the first time we unveiled it. I went in November. I guess the key parts of the story for us is everything that we stand for at Not Impossible, and the name kind of implies our ethos is looking at things that are impossible that logically you look at and you go, that's silly, we should make that not impossible. We look at ways that we can use technology for the sake of humanity. We look at things that we can look at hacking or making or modifying or changing some code or cracking something open and just making it accomplish something different that will accomplish a fundamental need that somebody has. So we launched the story on January 6th. And in marketing speak, I think this is the majority of the people here are on the technical and CEO side, but in marketing speak, we accomplished something that was largely thought to be impossible, that in 14 weeks we had accomplished 420 million earned media impressions, which in I've come from marketing and advertising. That's just unheard of, and that was earned. That was unpaid, and that was before Intel got behind it and started to kind of push anything out there. So, for us, we were like, holy crap, this story has resonance, and people are watching this. And as Geralyn said, our goal from this is similar to, I think, to the response that you had, is that we want people to see this and go, wait a second, if that dude can go out there with a 3D printer and drop it into a community, that it was truly a gods must be crazy kind of moment when that 3D printer hit the ground. And they were like, what is this black box? Oh my God, look at this black box is making things. That we want this to inspire other people to say and ask the question, and this is the question that we ask people, is that when you watch this, when you watch any of the stories we're telling, is to ask yourself the question, who is your Daniel? Who is the Daniel in your life that you can make a change for? Simple. We're not, well, maybe some of the people in this room are, but majority of the people aren't Gates or Buffett or Bono, so we can't tackle malaria, hunger, or poverty. Those are pretty magnanimous issues. But you can address the issue of a Daniel, or a Jim, or a Tony, or something like that, that is a quantifiable person that in helping them and hacking something or making something that accomplishes something for them and then publishing it open source and giving it away, you have the ability to help many. And that's kind of the little clip that was in the film, Help One, Help Many. That's how we look at the storytelling, how we tell our stories, and also how we address the technological issues that we try to manage.
Which is a perfect segue to our final clip, because in Ohio, yesterday, Mike talked about Wisconsin, which has the largest number of nursing homes that now have the Music and Memory program, and we've just started 100 in Utah as well. And they started a campaign called Who is Your Henry? And they have 10,000 viral clips submitted from families that have gone back and given music to the members of their family and shown what has happened because of the program. The other great thing I wanted to let you know about that program is that after the nuclear industry, the most regulated industry in this country is nursing homes, and they get fined all the time. And all the money that is used to fine them for not being compliant has been put in a state fund in every single state to be able to do quality care improvement. So all of the music memory programs that are being funded in Wisconsin and Missouri and in Utah are being funded by these penalty clauses. So it's not even like we have to go out and find corporate dollars to bring music memory to the states. We need to find, coalitions of state leaders that want to bring the program there. So we're going to show you the trailer, and then we're going to break, and then we can do the Q&A over refreshments. And again, this is just to give you an insight into how hard it is to take a film that you watched last night and then reduce it down so that you can build audiences to want to come without telling the whole story. So it's not perfect, but we'd like your reaction.
What do you think of music? My heart belongs to music. I love it.
Have you ever had music just hit you in a place that immediately brought you to tears? Music has that power.
Music connects people with who they have been, who they are, and their lives. Because what happens when you get old is all the things you're familiar with and your identity are all just being peeled away.
We're going to do your medicine now.
Our healthcare system imagines the human to be a very complicated machine. We have medicines that can adjust the dials. Blood pressure, oh, turn that down. Blood sugar, oh, turn that down. We haven't done anything to touch the heart and soul of a patient.
I have one resident that barely opened her eyes. She didn't respond. I knew her for 2 years. Once we put the iPod on her, she started shaking her feet. She started moving her head. It was amazing.
Music has more ability to activate more parts of the brain than any other stimulus.
Who am I? Who am I? I'm your daughter.
By exciting or awakening those pathways, we have a gateway to stimulate and reach somebody who otherwise is unreachable.
It can't get away from me if I'm in this place.
It takes me back to my school days. Oh, God, that's beautiful.
Does it make you happy to sing for us?
Yeah. I'm crying.
Every human being needs stimulation from the outside, from little babies to old people.
American culture is wrong. There is actually life beyond adulthood. There's the opportunity to live and grow and become elders. The aging that we experience holds in it very important learnings and lessons.
There is no pill that does that.
Oh, thank you so much.
Okay, so there's a tears of joy.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to grow wings.
I was trying.
I think we've run out of time, right? So we're just going to have our ability to just mix and mingle at the break and ask questions of the filmmakers. If there's anybody that wants to support their projects, I know they'd appreciate it. And thank you for giving us the time to show you these little clips and have a conversation outside.